Okay, so you get that email, it lands right in your inbox. Congratulations. We'd like to invite you for an interview. And for like a split second, your heart's pounding, right? Pure excitement.
Mm.
But then you see it, that line. The interview will be conducted entirely in English. And just like that, poof, the excitement kind of twists into this knot of anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a common feeling. You could be absolutely brilliant at what you do, tons of experience, but that language barrier or perceived barrier feels huge, like a mountain, as you said.
Exactly. A linguistic mountain.
And what's really fascinating here and what we're going to dive into today is that the English job interview, it's often about so much more than just, vocabulary and grammar.
Right.
It's deeply connected to cultural norms, unspoken communication styles, how you project your professional self, getting your head around that bigger picture first. That's really key.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive. We've pulled together strategies, really actionable stuff, specifically for nailing these English job interviews. Our mission today, really, is to help you transform that anxiety knot into, well, an advantage, helping you show up as you confidently, even if English isn't your first language.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to break down all the critical bits, preparing your thoughts, sure, but also delivering them with real conviction. This isn't about memorizing lines like a robot.
No, please don't.
Right. It's about building genuine confidence, figuring out those hidden expectations, and actually making a connection.
Exactly. It's more about showing you can work effectively in English. Solve problems, talk things through with the team, adapt. It's less about achieving grammatical perfection. That shift in thinking is, I think, fundamental.
So picture this.
Yeah.
You walk into that interview room, or maybe you log on to the video call, and you feel, actually poised, articulate, ready.
Yeah.
Not just passively answering questions, but really engaging, making eye contact, looking confident, leaving that strong, positive mark. That's the goal today. That's the transformation we're aiming for.
A very achievable goal, too.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the general landscape. Based on what we've seen, English interviews, especially maybe in Western companies, they feel different. What's the core difference you'd highlight?
I think a really critical one is the tone they're often aiming for. It's usually this blend, professional, yes, but also conversational.
Conversational.
Yeah. And a common pitfall for non-native speakers is preparing these super rigid, memorized answers. You think you're being thorough, but it can come across as unnatural, maybe even inflexible, because it lacks that bit of spontaneity interviewers often like to see.
That makes sense. You lose the real you a bit.
You do. And flowing from that conversational ideal clarity and conciseness become really, really important. It's not just what you say.
It's how you say it.
Precisely. Interviewers are listening closely. Can you explain something complex, maybe a technical idea, simply, directly?
Right.
If you can do that clearly in English, it shows more than just language skill. It shows you can simplify, communicate effectively, a huge plus professionally. So avoid those really long, rambling sentences where you kind of lose the point halfway through.
Yeah, easy to get tangled up. Which leads us straight into active listening, doesn't it? It's more than just catching the words they throw at you.
Oh, much more. It's about picking up on the nuances, the subtle cues. Are they probing for more detail? Is there an underlying question?
Like when they say, could you elaborate on that?
Exactly. That's often an invitation. Go deeper, give a concrete example, show your thought process, and that requires sharp English listening skills, especially, with all the different accents you might encounter.
Good point about accents.
Which actually, this raises an important question about perspective. How should you, as the candidate, see the interview? Is it just you being tested?
Ah, good one. Because it's definitely not just a test, is it? It's absolutely your chance, your opportunity to check them out. Does this role fit? Is this company right for you? And preparing your own smart questions in English, that shows real engagement.
Yeah.
Genuine interest. That can make a much bigger impact than just having slick answers.
Totally agree. And linking to that, doing your homework on the company's culture pays off. How do they communicate? Is it super formal or more relaxed?
Okay.
Knowing that helps you tailor your whole approach in English. Your opening, your closing, even the kind of words you choose. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, don't underestimate nonverbal cues.
Body language.
Huge. Especially now with so many video calls, making good eye contact, which means looking at the camera lens, usually sitting up, open posture, using natural gestures. Yeah. All of this boosts how confident you seem, even if your English isn't, absolutely perfect.
It really does speak volumes, doesn't it? And you mentioned accents earlier. That's a real thing to prepare for. English is global. Your interviewer could be from anywhere.
Definitely. Listening practice with different accents is a smart move. Just helps tune your ear.
Right.
And remember, sometimes it's not just about proficiency. Some companies want to see if you can actually work in English. Can you problem solve, contribute to a team discussion, show adaptability using the language? That's a step beyond just basic fluency.
Okay, let's zero in on a classic opening question. It seems so simple, but it's loaded with opportunity. Tell me about yourself.
Yes. The non-question question.
Right. It's not an invitation for your life story. It's really your professional elevator pitch. It needs to be concise, compelling, maybe, 60 to 90 seconds? Delivered confidently.
That's a good time frame. And the structure is key. Think of it in 3 parts.
Okay.
First, present. Start with your current job. What are your key responsibilities? Major achievements. Use strong action verbs. I managed, I developed, I led.
Got it. Present first, then.
Then past. Briefly touch on the relevant background that got you here. Key experiences, maybe education. Show that logical path, but keep it brief, just the highlights.
Right, not the whole CV.
Exactly. And the third part, this is crucial, and often where people stumble. Future and Ben.
Connecting it to this job.
Yes. Why are you excited about this specific role and this specific company? Don't just say, I need a job. Mention something concrete you admire. Maybe their innovation, their values, their market position, something that shows you've done your homework.
That research part is vital then.
Absolutely. You have to research for that future piece and then practice. Practice this whole pitch out loud.
In English.
Out loud is key.
Massively. Record yourself. Listen back. Does it sound natural, clear? Any tricky pronunciation spots? Practicing builds that muscle memory you need under pressure. And try to vary your sentences, use good vocabulary, and quantify achievements if you can. Managed a team of 5, increased efficiency by 10%, numbers cut through.
So this is really your first big chance to frame your story, right? Make it align with what they're looking for. Control the narrative.
Precisely. Nail this, and you set a really positive tone for the rest of the interview. Okay, moving on from the intro pitch. The real meat of the interview often involves those behavioral or situational questions. Tell me about a time you faced a challenge, led a team, missed a deadline.
The STAR method questions.
Exactly. And the STAR method situation, task, action, result seems like an incredibly useful tool here, especially for non-native speakers trying to structure their thoughts in English.
It's a lifesaver. It gives you that clear narrative framework, stops you from, rambling.
So break it down for us. S is situation.
Right. Briefly set the scene. What was the context, the background? Keep it concise, especially for non-native speakers, just the essential setup.
T is task.
Yes. What was your specific role in that situation? What was your objective? What were you supposed to do?
Okay. Then A for action. This feels like the important bit.
It's the core, absolutely. Detail the specific steps you took. What did you actually do? Use I statements. I analyzed the data. I proposed a solution. I collaborated with. Use those strong action verbs again. Avoid getting lost in the we did this if the question is about your actions.
Right. Focus on your contribution. And finally, R for result.
Yes. What was the outcome? What happened because of your actions? And crucially, quantify it whenever possible.
Numbers again.
Numbers are powerful. We saw a 15% increase in efficiency. It saved the company $10,000. We finished the project 2 weeks early. Makes your impact concrete. And if the outcome wasn't perfect, that's okay too. Focus on what you learned. The initial approach didn't work, but I learned X, and we adjusted by doing Y.
That learning point is really valuable. Shows self-awareness.
Definitely. So the advice is, prepare maybe 2 or 3 solid STAR stories covering common themes. Teamwork, leadership, conflict, deadlines, failure, success. You know the drill.
And practice them.
Practice them in English out loud until they sound natural, not robotic, but, like you're comfortably telling a story. And watch your verb tenses. You'll be shifting between past for the story and maybe present or future for the lessons learned.
Got it. So it's not enough just to say, I'm a good communicator. You need to prove it.
Exactly. Showcase it. Use STAR to demonstrate that skill. Describe a situation where your communication made a real difference, leading to a specific positive result.
And keep hammering those action verbs managed, developed, implemented, analyzed. And the quantification, increased sales by 20%. Reduced errors by 15%.
It adds so much weight and credibility. Numbers often speak louder than adjectives, especially if there's any potential language ambiguity.
And always tailor the examples right. Connect them back to the job description, to what this company needs. Don't just tell a random story. Make it relevant.
Absolutely. And after you state a skill or describe an action using STAR, mentally ask yourself that key question.
Which is?
So what?
Right.
Don't just say what you did. Explain the impact. Why does it matter? What was the benefit? Answering the so what turns a good answer into a really impressive one. It forces you to connect your actions to actual value.
That's a great tip. Okay, so these behavioral questions, they're trying to predict your future behavior based on past actions. STAR is the framework. Any specific tips for non-native speakers when talking about difficult stuff like challenges or mistakes?
Yeah, when you talk about a challenge, the focus needs to be on your role in overcoming it. What steps did you take? Avoid blaming others or just describing the problem. Frame it as something you actively tackled and solved.
Okay. And for mistakes or failures, honesty is important, but
Honesty, yes, but immediately pivot to the lesson learned. I made this mistake, and here's what I learned from it, and here's how I apply that learning now. It shows growth, self-awareness. That transcends language barriers.
point. And teamwork questions.
Be careful with phrasing. Use English that highlights collaboration. Maybe, I worked closely with the team too, or my role involves coordinating, rather than just, I did this. And try to explain the why behind your actions.
Like strategic thinking.
Exactly. I chose to do X because our goal was Y. It adds depth. Shows you weren't just following orders.
Okay, let's shift gears. End of the interview, they always ask, do you have any questions for us? This isn't just politeness, is it?
Not at all. It's a golden opportunity. Seriously. Asking thoughtful questions shows you're engaged, you're serious, and you're thinking critically. Always, always have 2 or 3 prepared.
And not just any questions, right? Not stuff you could find on their website in 2 minutes.
Please, no, go deeper. Ask things like, could you describe what a typical day or week looks like in this role? Or, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing this team in the next, say, 6 to 12 months? Maybe even, how will this role contribute to tackling those challenges? Shows you're thinking ahead.
What about asking about culture or the team?
Great questions. How would you describe the team dynamics? What opportunities are there for professional development here? You can even ask the interviewer about their own experience, build a little rapport. What's your favorite part about working here?
Nice. And phrasing is important.
Keep it clear, concise, and if they've already covered one of your questions during the chat, acknowledge it. You actually touched on team structure earlier, which was great, but I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit more on. Shows you were listening intently.
Smart. What should you generally avoid asking, especially in a first interview?
Yeah, rule of thumb is hold off on questions about salary, specific benefits, vacation time, unless they bring it up first. Keep the focus initially on the role, the team, the company, the opportunity.
Makes sense. Okay, let's tackle the really tricky questions. The ones designed to see how you handle pressure, maybe test your honesty. Like the classic, what are your greatest weaknesses? How do you handle that in English without feeling exposed?
Right. Avoid cliches like, I'm a perfectionist or I work too hard. They sound insincere. Pick a genuine area for development, something you're actively working on, and frame it positively.
Can you give an example?
Sure, maybe something like, well, sometimes I can get really focused on the details, which means I might spend longer on a task than needed. But I'm very aware of this, and I'm actively working on it by setting clear time limits for tasks and focusing on the bigger picture deliverables first. See? It's honest, shows self-awareness, and highlights a proactive solution.
That's a good structure. Honesty, awareness, action. What about past failures or negative experiences?
For failures, use STAR again, but really emphasize the result being the lesson learned and how you applied it later. For negative experiences, maybe with a former boss or colleague, utmost professionalism is key. Focus on what you learned about navigating different work styles or difficult situations, not on criticizing the other person. Keep it neutral and learning focused.
And resume gaps. Or reasons for leaving previous jobs.
Honesty and conciseness again. Frame it positively. You are seeking new challenges, opportunities for skill growth, maybe taking time for personal development or family. Keep it brief and forward-looking. And here's a critical point, especially for non-native speakers. If you don't understand a question, maybe the phrasing is complex or the accent is unfamiliar, it is perfectly okay, in fact, it's better, to politely ask for clarification.
How would you phrase that?
Simple things like, could you please rephrase that? Or, I want to make sure I understand correctly. Could you explain what you mean by? It shows you're engaged and want to give a relevant answer, much better than just guessing.
That's really reassuring. And taking a moment before answering.
Absolutely fine. Take a brief pause. Collect your thoughts. It shows thoughtfulness, not weakness. Better than launching into a confused answer. Maintain that calm, confident demeanor. Your nonverbals matter here too.
Which brings us perfectly to nonverbal cues, the silent signals. You said earlier, sometimes body language speaks louder than words, especially if there's a potential language hurdle.
It really can. Think about the key things. Eye contact, maintain a comfortable level. On video, that means looking mostly at the camera lens, not just the screen image.
Right, that's a tricky one on video.
It takes practice. Then, posture. Sit up, look engaged, open posture. Avoid slouching or crossing your arms defensively. Use natural hand gestures to emphasize points, but don't let them become, distracting.
What about facial expressions?
They matter. A genuine smile when appropriate, nodding to show you're listening and understanding. Look thoughtful when considering a question. Keep your hands visible, generally.
And for video calls, the setup.
Crucial. Tidy background, good lighting so they can see you clearly, and test your camera and microphone beforehand. No technical glitches if you can help it, and dress the part, even on video. That old saying, dressed for the job you want, still applies. It affects how you feel and how you're perceived. And the underlying principle here is consistency. Your body language needs to match your words. If you're saying you're confident and enthusiastic, your posture, eye contact, and tone should all back that up. It builds credibility.
Okay, let's get into the finer points of the language itself. The nuances. This is where English can move from just being functional to sounding, well, more culturally aware and impressive.
Exactly. Politeness, for instance, is huge in many English-speaking professional contexts. Directness can sometimes come across as blunt or even rude.
So instead of repeat that, you'd say,
Could you please repeat that? Or, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Using please, thank you, showing appreciation, I appreciate you taking the time, goes a long way. Also, understanding the level of formality needed. Usually it's professional, but not overly stiff. So avoid very casual slang or contractions like gonna, wanna, stick to going to, want to.
what about idioms? They're tempting, but tricky.
Use idioms with extreme caution, only if you are 100% sure of the meaning and that it's appropriate for a professional setting. Nail the interview might be okay, but maybe piece of cake sounds too casual.
So when in doubt,
Leave it out. Or rephrase. Instead of, we need to hit the ground running, maybe say, we need to be effective immediately. Clarity is safer than a misused idiom.
good advice. What about hedging language?
Very useful, especially for sensitive topics or when you're not completely certain. Using phrases like, it seems to me that, or perhaps we could consider, or I tend to think, softens your statements, shows thoughtfulness, avoids sounding dogmatic.
And qualifiers?
Similar idea, I'm fairly confident that. Or, this is generally the case, shows competence without overpromising or sounding arrogant. Also, pay attention to the interviewer's language. You can subtly mirror their level of formality, not mimicking, but adjusting slightly. And definitely avoid absolutes when discussing disagreements. There was a difference in perspective is much better than he was totally wrong. Shows diplomacy.
Okay, so wrapping all this advice together, what's the single biggest actionable takeaway for our listeners wanting to ace these interviews?
Practice. Consistent, targeted practice. It's all about building that muscle memory for speaking English effectively, especially under pressure.
How should people practice?
Practice your answers out loud. Don't just think them through. Saying the words helps you catch awkward phrasing, pronunciation issues, spots where you don't sound natural. Record yourself.
Cringeworthy, but effective.
Very effective. Listen back critically. How's your pace? Clarity. Do you sound confident? And seek feedback. Ask a native speaker friend, an English teacher, anyone experienced to do a mock interview with you. They'll spot things you miss.
Role-playing helps too, right? Thinking on your feet.
Definitely. Practice answering anticipated questions, but also try some unexpected ones. And learn to use short, neutral English filler words naturally. Well, just sparingly, to give yourself a second to think without long, awkward silences.
And keep building vocabulary.
Always. Especially industry-specific terms and those powerful action verbs we talked about. Plus, practice active listening. Watch interviews online in English. Pause them. How would you answer that question? Try to mimic speakers you find clear and confident, not their accent necessarily, but their intonation, their pacing, their emphasis.
And the goal isn't perfection.
Absolutely not. The goal is clarity. It is okay to make small grammatical mistakes. Seriously. Conveying your message clearly, showing your skills, your enthusiasm, that's far more important than perfect grammar. Don't let the fear of mistakes paralyze you.
Great reassurance. Okay, so you've done the interview, you've used STAR, you've asked smart questions. How do you leave that final lasting positive impression? The follow-through matters.
It really does. First, the thank you email. Send a polite, professional email within 24 hours. Don't just make it generic. Personalize it. Mention something specific you discussed. I particularly enjoyed our conversation about X and how my skills and Y could contribute. Shows you are paying attention and are still interested.
And maintaining that positive vibe.
All the way through. Enthusiasm counts. Let your genuine personality come through. Authenticity is appealing. If it's video, double-check that tech again, stable internet, quiet space, good lighting. Remember their name, use it respectfully.
And the closing.
End strong. Reiterate your enthusiasm for the role one last time. And it's perfectly fine, in fact, it's good, to ask about the process. What are the next steps? Or what's the timeline for a decision? Shows you're keen.
And then, after it's all done,
try to let it go. Trust your preparation. You did your best. Don't endlessly replay every single word in your head. Easier said than done, I know, but try.
Fantastic advice. Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground here today. We've journeyed through understanding the whole English interview landscape, crafting that crucial tell me about yourself pitch, mastering the STAR method.
Showcasing skills, handling those tough questions.
Right, leveraging body language, understanding those tricky language nuances, and crucially, the absolute necessity of practice, practice, practice.
And the key message, I hope, is that you are ready. You can confidently showcase your unique value. Remember, the English job interview isn't just a language test. It's a chance to show your professional competence, your awareness, your ability to operate successfully in a global context.
Your English is a tool.
Exactly. A tool, not a barrier.
So embrace the preparation we've talked about. Trust your skills, trust your experience. Walk into that interview knowing you're prepared to clearly articulate your strengths, your aspirations, all that hard work you've put into your English. It absolutely can pay off, opening doors to amazing opportunities. You can nail that dream job interview.
You really can.
The only question left is, what incredible new challenge are you ready to take on next?
Thanks for listening, and if you found the video helpful, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode, and share it with others who might benefit. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. So your feedback is really important to us. And if you want to continue learning right now, here in this playlist, you'll find helpful videos for English listening practice. You might want to watch it next. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.